Alright guys, so today I wanted to bring you guys a different kind of video. This is an older system, of course we're talking about the Nintendo 3DS. A lot of people have probably moved on from this system because the Nintendo Switch is obviously such a hot item, especially during these times, and that system is amazing. And I love that system and I play it every day. I actually have two of those because my wife plays it now with Animal Crossing and stuff. But the 3DS still has a major feature that none of the other consoles have, and of course I'm talking about the 3D aspect of it. And unfortunately, a lot of people, when that thing came out, they experienced the first console of that, and basically the first 3D version of the 3DS wasn't good. Because if you moved your hand slightly to the left or right, it would lose the focus of your eyes, and, you know, a lot of people turned the 3D off in almost every game because of that, because it just didn't work well. And it wasn't a fun experience for them because of how bad it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great on the original 3DS. A lot of people just gave up and turned it off completely because of how bad it was at keeping your eyes, center. It had to be at a perfect sweet spot. But then they updated the 3DS to the newer 3DS, and then at that point, they changed the technology that was being used, and your eyes tracked a lot better, and you actually had a lot better of a, sweet spot. And that is the system I use this on, and the new 3DS is fantastic in 3D. I don't have to worry about like, oh my god, I moved like a centimeter to the right or left. I just lost 3D and I have to recenter myself. No, it keeps track really, really well, and it works fantastic in 3D. But obviously for a lot of people, it was probably too late at that point. A lot of people were so used to just turning 3D games off on the 3DS that they didn't even care, or they didn't buy that system. But I'm here to tell you that the 3DS, not only is there fantastic games on the 3DS, as there's always been, and still is worth to go back to play those games that don't exist on the Switch or any other system, but they're in 3D, and I'm a big advocate for 3D. I have a 3D monitor for my PC, and I did a video of that if you guys want to check out, if you're fans of 3D, on how that technology is still working, even though NVIDIA gave up on it. But here, Nintendo came out with 3D, and it's unfortunate that, it didn't pick up with a lot of people because of how bad the first impressions were for people, because there are some really, really good 3D games on the 3DS, and that's what we're here to talk about today. We're going to be doing our top 7 3D games on the 3DS. Now, keep in mind, these are the top 7 3D games on the 3DS, not the top 7 best games on the 3DS. Very, very different. So these are if you want to experience the greatest 3D on the 3DS, these are the 7 games that, of course, I'm going to be talking about. And these games are fantastic in 3D. And I can't wait to show you. So let's go ahead and dive into the video, and let's do our top 7.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech, going for a recce is the gaming tech, gaming techie is the gaming tech, gaming techie.
Alright guys, so coming out here at number 7 on the 3DS is none other than Kid Icarus Uprising. This is the original game that of course came out when the 3DS first launched, and it was kind of the first game that did and represented 3D really well. This is an on-rail shooter, uses unique controls on the 3DS, actually even made a accessory come out for the 3DS just because of how unique the controls are. And some people didn't like this game. I actually think this game is great. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're into shooters and stuff like that, on-rail shooters. And the 3D in this really showed us what the system was going to be able to do in the future, and one of the first ones to come out. This game was fantastic in showing how the 3D worked, and, still one of the standouts on the 3DS, even though it was one of the ones that came out in the beginning. It's an outstanding 3D game, and it's definitely one that everyone should check out, especially if you're a fan of the genre, like we mentioned before. That is Kid Icarus at number 7. The next one coming in at number 6 is Metroid Samus Returns. Now, you would think that this game doesn't lend itself to 3D that much because of the fact that obviously this is more of a 2D game. You're playing on a 2D surface and you're going around levels, so you would think that this is not, going to be a fantastic game in 3D, but boy, were we proven wrong if you guys have played this game before. The 2.5D, which is what this is called, is basically where the 3D in the background, you're kind of seeing the background like it's a far away image, and it really adds an element to this game that you have never seen before in a Metroid game before. And this game is fantastic on the 3DS as far as 3D goes, and it's so much fun to play because of it, because of the way that you see the foreground, the way that you're seeing the background and stuff. It really adds an element to the actual game itself and how you actually experience the game. And it's definitely one of the standouts, one of my favorite games on the 3DS because of it. Not only is this a fantastic game in its own right, but the 3D really does add a whole nother element to this game that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, and should definitely check this game out for. That is Metroid Samus Returns at number 6. The next one on this list, as you can see, is from Capcom and is a fantastic game on the 3DS as well, and that is Resident Evil Revelations. Now, This game has been ported to a lot of different consoles already. It's actually on the Nintendo Switch. It's on a bunch of different systems, but there is nothing like experiencing this game in 3D on the 3DS, and it is my favorite way to play this game. If I had my choice between playing this on the Nintendo Switch or playing this on the 3DS, even though the graphics aren't as good, the 3D really takes it that far, and I would easily play the 3DS version every time. As a big fan of 3D, they did an outstanding job with the way this 3D is showing in this game, and it really adds a lot to the actual game. And I don't think this is one. If you guys are fans of 3D and you guys are fans of Resident Evil Revelations and you haven't played it on the 3DS before and you've only played it on the Switch, definitely check this one out. This is Resident Evil Revelations at number 5. The next one on this list, coming in at number 4, is a game that surprised me because I've never actually been a serious hardcore fan of this series in general. And I'm talking about Castlevania Lords of Shadow, Mirror of Fate, and specifically. But either one of the Castlevania games on the 3DS are both fantastic in 3D. And I've never really played a lot of Castlevania. It's a game that I need to go back to in a series I need to look into. But I did play it on these 2 editions on the 3DS, and it really sold me on the 3D on the 3DS. This is another game that's kind of like Metroid Prime, where it's really lending itself to the 2.5D nature of this and how it actually works and what the 3D depth adds to this game when you're looking at the backgrounds and stuff. But this game has even more going on than Metroid Samus Returns is, just because of the nature of how this game is played with, the levels design that you're having into and the weapons that you're actually using and all that stuff really lends itself to the 3D nature of this game. And if you guys are fans of the Castlevania series, and you have not checked these 2 games out on the 3DS, or you have turned that 3D slider off, go back and play it with the 3D, because it is a fantastic game on the 3DS in its own right for its game, but takes it up another notch because of the 3D. So that is Castlevania Lords of Shadow, Mirror of Fate on the 3DS at number 4. The next one on this list doesn't need any introduction, and it goes without saying that all of these Kirby games on the 3DS are all fantastic in 3D. I just decided to choose this version, which is Kirby Planet Robotron, and this game is fantastic in 3D. Man, just because of the colorful art style of this game that you guys are seeing here, it really lends itself to just looking fantastic in 3D. And all of the Kirby games on the 3DS are fantastic in 3D, and you should play them all because they're all fantastic in their own way. And this game, just the fun nature of it, playing co-op with your friends and stuff like that, this game is just fantastic in 3D. And the environments are so colorful, the environments are really interactive, they're all so different from each other, a lot of different variety in the actual levels and stuff, and just a real treat for 3D. And that is Kirby Robotron, coming in at number 3. The next game on this list is probably the game that most people have probably played 3D on the 3DS for, and that is Super Mario 3D Land. Now, everyone knows how fantastic this game is in 3D, and this game actually does something unique in 3D, because if you actually turn off the 3D, there's actually certain parts in the game where it's actually going to tell you to turn the 3D on, because it knows, even the game knows that it adds elements to this game that need to be experienced in 3D. And this is not only a fantastic game for 3D on the 3DS, but a fantastic Mario game in general. A lot of creativity in this one, and the 3D depth and stuff really adds something to the Mario franchise. And it's a fantastic game on the 3DS, and obviously being at number 2 is one of the best 3D games and 3D examples on the 3DS. You can tell this game was made from the ground up with 3D in mind, with the way that it uses 3D and with the environments and the gameplay. If there's only 2 games you play in 3D on the 3DS and you leave that slider on, this has to be one of them. And it's a fantastic game to show to people, and there's nothing else to be said about it. This is a fantastic game overall, and that is Super Mario 3D Land, coming in at number 2. Now, here we are, landing in at my number 1 game on the 3DS for 3D, and that is Sega 3D Classics Collection. I would have never thought that this would be the game to be my number 1, but once I played this game, and it took me a while to play it, I didn't play this when the game first came out. I actually played this a couple of months ago, and it literally blew my mind. Just get to the title screen of the actual game, sit at the title screen and watch the intro movie in 3D, and it will blow your mind. These games were games that weren't even made in 3D back in the day. These are obviously old games that were made for the 3DS that they ported over from the arcades and classics, and it is fantastic. The best 3D representation on the 3DS, bar none. The 3D pop out in this game on the main menu and in the games and stuff really are ridiculous. They're so good, so good. And this is easily my favorite 3D game on the 3DS. It's a lot of fun and a game that you will show to your friends and they'll be instantly impressed with. Check this one out, guys. Don't miss it. That is the Sega 3D Classics Collection on the 3DS, the best 3D game on the system. Alright guys, so that was my top 7 games on the 3DS for 3D. And there's so many other games that we could be talking about here. You know, Shovel Knight is fantastic on the 3DS. You know, I have a buttload of games on the 3DS over there that show fantastically in 3D. These are the top 7 games that I can recommend for all you guys. If you guys haven't experienced 3D on the 3DS that much, these are the 7 that you guys need to experience. You know, like I said earlier, if you're a big fan of 3D like I am, the 3DS is a must-have. You know, not for the quality of games only that are on there in their own right, but for the 3D nature that we don't get in any other console that has ever released except for the Virtual Boy, but that was terrible. And the 3DS is fantastic in 3D. There's not much else to be said, and these games are a shining example of what 3D could have done for the 3DS and everything that you guys should be experiencing. If you guys have a 3DS sitting at your house right now, pick up these games, play them. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if there's any 3D games that you guys are a really big fan of that I may have not talked about that you think deserve to be in the top 7, list those down below so I can check them out. Obviously, I haven't played every 3DS game out in the world, so maybe I missed a couple, but these are the outstanding ones that I found. So if you guys have any questions about today's video, leave them down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Till next time.
Tech, gaming techie is the gaming tech, gaming techie, gaming tech. Eating brekkie is the gaming tech, going for a recce is the gaming tech, gaming techie is the gaming tech, gaming techie.